Have you ever stopped for a moment, maybe late at night, or when you're scrolling through videos, and asked yourself, what if everything we've been taught isn't the whole truth? What if some of the most celebrated achievements in history were not what they seem? One of the biggest and most talked about mysteries in the world is the moon landing in 1969. For decades we've been told that humans left Earth and walked on the moon's surface, with footage, photos and rock samples as proof. But what if it was all staged? What if it was a grand illusion created to fool the world? Today, I'm going to take you through every part of this debate, step by step, explaining what actually happened, what doubts people raise, the science behind it, and the arguments on both sides. By the end, you'll understand not just what people believe, but why they believe it, and whether those reasons hold up. So, let's start at the beginning. According to NASA, on July 20th, 1969, two astronauts, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, set foot on the moon, while a third astronaut, Michael Collins, orbited above in the command module. Armstrong's famous words, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind," were broadcast live, and millions of people around the world watched in awe. The mission, known as Apollo 11, wasn't just a scientific achievement, it was a major political victory for the United States. At the time, the world was in the middle of the Cold War, and America wanted to prove it could beat the Soviet Union in space exploration. The astronauts collected rock samples, set up experiments, and spent more than 21 hours exploring the moon's surface. NASA released thousands of photos, hours of footage, and even brought back samples of moon rocks for scientific study. Sounds pretty convincing, right? But despite this overwhelming amount of evidence, questions started popping up almost immediately. Some people began asking, why does something feel off? And from there, doubts turned into full-blown conspiracy theories. One of the most common doubts is about the photos. If you've seen the pictures, you probably noticed something strange. Where are the stars in the sky? The sky looks completely dark, empty, as if it shouldn't be space at all. Skeptics say that when you're in space, stars should be clearly visible in every photograph, but they're nowhere to be found. So does that mean the photos were taken somewhere on Earth, like a studio set? Well, here's the explanation that scientists and photographers give. Cameras need to adjust their exposure depending on how much light is present. The moon's surface is extremely bright, reflecting sunlight strongly. The astronauts and the ground were lit by the sun's powerful rays, so the cameras were set to capture this brightness. Stars, on the other hand, are much dimmer. Because of the camera's settings, the faint light from stars wouldn't even show up. Even today, when professional photographers take pictures of bright objects, stars often disappear from the background. Another claim that's been repeated over and over is about the American flag. In some video clips, it looks like the flag is waving or fluttering. But wait, in space there's no air, no wind. So how could it possibly wave? Doesn't that prove the whole thing was fake? The real explanation involves something much simpler, physics. The flag wasn't floating in space, it had a horizontal rod running along the top to keep it extended. When the astronauts planted it into the moon's ground, they had to twist and move it, which caused it to ripple briefly. Because there's no air to slow it down, the motion continued for a few seconds, making it look like it was waving. So it's not that the moon has wind, it's that inertia keeps things moving longer in space than on Earth. Now, skeptics also point to strange shadows and lighting effects. They argue that shadows fall at weird angles, overlap or stretch unnaturally, as if there were multiple light sources like studio lamps. But once again, the surface of the moon is uneven, dusty, and filled with small hills and ridges. The way sunlight hits it, combined with reflections from the Earth's surface, can create unusual-looking shadows. Even on Earth, in deserts or mountains, we see similar distortions when sunlight hits uneven terrain. One of the more frightening arguments is about radiation. The Earth is surrounded by something called the Van Allen radiation belts, zones filled with highly charged particles that can cause serious harm to living beings. Skeptics argue that passing through these belts should have exposed astronauts to dangerous levels of radiation, possibly even death. How could anyone pass through that barrier and walk safely on the moon? The answer lies in the spacecraft's design and trajectory. Scientists calculated the safest path to move quickly through the belts, spending the least possible time in the highest radiation zones. The spacecraft's shielding also helped block harmful particles. The astronauts didn't just blast through it, they carefully navigated it, ensuring exposure remained within safe limits. Then there's the issue of craters. When the lunar module landed, shouldn't the powerful thrusters have blasted a crater into the ground? But when you look at the landing site, there's barely any disturbance. Skeptics argue that this proves the whole thing was faked. However, the moon's surface isn't like soft sand. It's made of tightly packed dust and rock called regolith. When the landing module touched down, the engine's thrust was reduced at the last moment to avoid stirring up too much debris. The result? A gentle touchdown, not a crater-forming blast. So all these questions might make you wonder, why go through all this trouble to fake something so massive? Why stage a landing that would require thousands of people, engineers, astronauts and officials to keep a secret? The most popular reason ties back to the Cold War. At that time, America and the Soviet Union were competing not just in space, but in military technology, political power and global influence. The Soviets had already launched Sputnik, the world's first satellite, in 1957, sending shockwaves across the globe. Beating them to the moon became a matter of national pride, political dominance, and technological superiority. A successful moon landing boosted America's image worldwide. It united the nation, encouraged scientific education, and helped distract from other political troubles. Some theorists even believe that faking the mission would have been easier than attempting it with the technology available at the time. But, on the flip side, why would governments risk such a massive lie? Wouldn't it be nearly impossible to keep everyone quiet? Wouldn't rival nations expose the truth? That's where the counter-arguments come in. Many experts and scientists have dissected these claims and shown that they don't hold up under scrutiny. The missing stars are explained by camera limitations. The flag's movement is a simple physics effect. The shadows are due to uneven ground and reflections. The radiation belts were accounted for in the mission planning. Even the lack of craters is a result of the moon's surface characteristics and careful landing techniques. Beyond technical details, independent tracking from observatories around the world confirmed the mission's path. Even the Soviet Union, America's biggest competitor, monitored the flight. If it had been a fraud, wouldn't they have exposed it? And then there's the hard evidence, the moon rocks. Thousands of samples brought back by Apollo missions have been examined by labs in multiple countries, and their composition confirms that they are not from Earth. These rocks show unique isotopes, structures, and chemical signatures that only exist in outer space. Additionally, every component of the mission, from the rockets to the landing craft, has been archived, studied, and preserved. Modern technology, including satellites and new missions, has confirmed the landing sites, further proving that humans did indeed walk on the moon. So what's the real answer? Was the moon landing a grand deception designed to manipulate the world? Or was it an extraordinary achievement born out of courage, science, and meticulous planning? The truth may never be fully known, or perhaps it's already out there, hidden in plain sight, waiting for those willing to ask questions and dig deeper. In the next episode, we'll explore another world-famous mystery. Area 51, the top-secret military base in Nevada that's surrounded by UFO sightings, government cover-ups, and endless speculation. What are they hiding, and why is this place so secretive? We'll uncover the facts, theories, and strange sightings that fuel this mystery. Until then, stay curious, question everything, and remember, sometimes the biggest secrets hide right where we least expect them.